Jai Hind. I am Captain Yashika Hatwal Tyagi, the First Lady Officer from the Logistics Wing of Indian Army, to be part of Battle Zone in Operation Vijay. And welcome to Shaurya Tales. This is the Yoddha series of Shaurya Tales. And in this segment, we are in conversation with the brave hearts, the warriors, the Yoddhas. And what better to understand the life and the strife and the struggles and the sweat and the blood than speaking with these brave hearts. Today, I am very proud that we have amongst us an officer, a gentleman, a Gurkha, Colonel Manoj Thakur. He is from 3rd 4th GR and has served for 31 long years in Indian Army. I welcome you, Colonel Thakur, to Shaurya Tales Yoddha series.
Thank you so much, Yashika, and it is always a great pleasure interacting with you.
I cannot even begin to tell you how much I am looking forward, क्योंकि ये segment एक ऐसा होने वाला है जो आज तक हमने योद्धा series में नहीं किया. That is speaking about the glacier. I know in your 31 years of service, you must have been posted to different kinds of areas. कभी असम के जंगलों में आप रहे होंगे, कभी पहाड़ों में, और सब तरीके की जगहों के बाद जब आप सियाचिन ग्लेशियर आते हैं, तो वो I am sure that it must be an experience like never before. लेकिन आपने उसे जिया है. मेरे ऑडियंस जो हैं वो सिर्फ पढ़ते हैं कि ये -50 डिग्री है, -60 डिग्री है, लेकिन मुझे नहीं लगता कि किसी को समझ में भी आता है कि -50 में जिंदगी कैसी होती है. So, Colonel Thakur, first of all, I welcome you to the show, and over to you for this first question. Take us through that life of glacier. क्या होता है ग्लेशियर में?
So, as you rightly mentioned, that it is an uncharted territory. Very few people get an opportunity to go there. In fact, earlier it was basically the mountaineers who were venturing into those places. Subsequently, once the Indian Army occupied it, it was limited to the soldiers only. Well, my career started from Siachen. Oh. And when I joined the unit, I just had about one month of service when the unit was inducted there. You are right. There are a lot of questions and a lot of issues come into the mind of people who have not seen the glacier.
Yeah.
Now, just a prelude to this, Siachen Glacier happens to be in the eastern Karakoram ranges of the Himalayas. Now, it demarcates the central, what we call, region, that is the Central Asian region from the Indian subcontinent. And the length of the glacier is approximately 76 kilometers long.
Okay.
Height will vary from, say, 20,000 to 22,000. And of course, when I say 2021, it is these areas where the Indian Army is occupying the peaks. The temperature there varies from -20 to -50. -50, in fact, more than -40 happens when the blizzards, they come there, and the temperature then goes even up to -60. So this is generally the terrain configuration there. And now coming down to the daily life and what happens in the Siachen Glacier. Well, frankly, I will tell you that unlike activities in other places, the daily activity is very minimum there. And this is primarily because of the harsh terrain, as well as the effect of altitude.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the daily activities or daily life of a soldier there, it narrows down basically to 4 or 5 issues. Firstly, one has to fight the weather, the terrain on a daily basis. Because your survival is based on keeping yourself fit. If something happens, then there's no other alternative but to evacuate you to the base camp within 24 hours. So therefore, a soldier has to be very, very alert there, understand the SOPs, what all measures you have to take to fight the cold. Now next comes the habitat. Habitat basically comes down to 2-3 modes of habitat. One is fiberglass huts, which the army has constructed there, but these are confined to places where the glacier is more or less flat in nature. One cannot have FGS, on the Saltoro Ridge. I'll come to the Saltoro Ridge subsequently in the discussion. The fiberglass huts are not permanent in nature.
Okay.
They have to be monitored and shifted because of the shifting nature of the glacier. So the activity, when I say about the habitats, it is basically maintaining your habitats, whether it is the fiberglass huts or they are the Arctic tents or even the igloos.
Okay.
So soldiers are busy in maintaining these habitats, removing the ice, relocating them. So this is another, a routine activity which continues in the Siachen Glacier. Next comes, of course, since it is a war zone, so surveillance, minimum patrolling, all these activities do go on in a very restricted manner because of the terrain. Then, of course, is fire evacuation. Now, this is also a routine activity. Unfortunately, during our times, the casualties were very, very high. So almost every day or every second day, efforts were to be taken to remove the casualties, and they are basically airlifted with the help of helicopters. So this itself is a daily exercise which keeps on going in the glacier. Next, finally comes the logistic issues. Now, maintaining the post on the Saltoro ridge line is a nightmare. If your logistic is strong, the battle is won in glacier. Especially in these days when the enemy activity is very, very less. More or less, there's a ceasefire going around there for quite some time. So basically, your soldier has to fight the terrain and the weather there. Now, when I say logistics, it comes down to the rations, how you supply the rations to various posts. Incidentally, all the replenishment of the rations, even the ammunition, is done by means of AN-32 at selected places of droppings.
Fixed wings.
Fixed wing aircrafts. Now, this is basically at a place which is called Kumar, which happens to be the battalion headquarters of the unit in the Northern Glacier. So now what happens? The troops, they have to go around, pick up the parachutes, pick up the, what they call a dropped item and get them. So this is also a daily routine which is happening there. And subsequently, the link patrols are sent to the forward post, where on man-pack basis, the selected items, especially the kerosene oil, which happens to be the lifeline there, these are dispatched by link patrols to the post.
How much of kerosene do you feel inside you when you are in Siachen?
Kerosene is a lifeline there, especially on the Saltoro Ridge. If there is kerosene, the life exists. If there's no kerosene, you will not be able to withstand the cold. Now, when I say kerosene, it is the Saltoro Ridge which demarcates the LAC, or in fact, I stand corrected, the actual ground position line, AGPL, what is called in the Siachen Glacier. Now, that demarcates the position between the two armies. So, we happen to occupy the Saltoro Ridge, and we dominate the entire Northern Glacier by sitting on the 3 passes. So, when you talk about kerosene oil, these have to be carried man-pack basis, and all the poles have to be climbed by help of ropes. So the troops, the Jawans, they have to do half-link patrol on man-pack basis. They carry the jerry cans and they are stocked in the post. If the kerosene and the stove is switched on, the morale is high. If the kerosene goes away, then the morale becomes low because temperature in the night also comes down. So it is very difficult to maintain that body temperature.
I just hope that people who are listening will be able to appreciate and understand. और आपने जिस तरीके से बताया, देखिए सियाचिन दुनिया का सबसे ऊंचा युद्ध क्षेत्र है, सबसे ऊंचा युद्ध क्षेत्र. And as Colonel Thakur has said that it is situated on that eastern Karakoram range. Temperature drops down to -50, probably even lesser at higher posts like Bana post. And 22,000 फीट से ऊंची पहाड़ियां, खड़ी बर्फ की चट्टानें, कहीं भी चढ़ाई है और कहां पता भी नहीं चलेगा. देयर वुड बी अ क्रेवेस, यानी गहरी गहरी खाइयां. सो लाइफ इज अ स्ट्रगल ऑन अ डेली बेसिस. जहां ऑक्सीजन कम है, जहां पानी नहीं है, बर्फ ही बर्फ है, लेकिन भारतीय सेना के जवान अपनी सीमाओं की रक्षा करते हैं. एंड यू आर अ गुरखा ऑफिसर, कर्नल ठाकुर. कहते हैं कि जंग के मैदान में जब खुखरी निकलती है गुरखा की और जय महाकाली आयो गुरखाली का वॉर क्राई आता है, तो दुश्मन के हौसले पस्त हो जाते हैं. I would like to take you further in conversation and would like to understand कि सियाचिन में हम देश की सीमा की रक्षा कर रहे हैं. We are guarding our borders at the highest possible, highest imaginable areas. तो ये करते कैसे हैं? How do you go? What exactly is meant by guarding the borders and how you do it? क्योंकि सब तरफ सफेद है, सब तरफ बर्फ है, और एक से दूसरे का कांटेक्ट आप कैसे रखते हैं? ब्लिजर्ड्स चल रहे हो सकते हैं. Just give us that sight and sound.
So the issue of guarding the EGPL. Now, what has happened that initially when the glacier was occupied, both the armies, in fact, the Pakistani army started climbing the glacier from their side much before the Indian army could react.
That is 1984.
Yeah, 1984. However, based on intelligence and very swift action taken by the government and the army at that time, the induction of troops was done in a very intelligent and a quick manner. So when the induction was taking place from both the sides, the Pakistani army was also doing it. In fact, they were surprised. They did not even come to know that the Indian army would react so quickly. Okay. So that is the time we were able to hold on to the Saltoro Ridge. Now, what is Saltoro Ridge? Saltoro Ridge, it is a ridge line which is a watershed between the position held by the Pakis and the northern glacier, where entire northern glacier of stretch of 76 kilometers, which we are holding. The terrain, as you know, is extremely difficult to negotiate for any body of troops in the world. You have to really negotiate the crevasses, you have to negotiate steep ice walls. So in a conventional warfare, it is next to us. It is very difficult. So what has happened? That in such a tactical scenario, the passes becomes the key point to defend. Now, whatever ingress will happen, it will happen through these passes. Saltoro Ridge, incidentally, has got 3 passes. The most important, the Bilafonda Pass, where all battles have been fought, including that. And the second, another very difficult pass to negotiate is the Bhim Pass. And third is the Siala, which is further north, joining almost the 5 nation boundaries which meet at Yoddha. So the entire deployment and entire procedure of guarding is holding on to these passes. Now you will hold on to these passes when you occupy the ridge line for Saltoro Ridge. Okay. Otherwise, apart from the passes, the enemy cannot enter into the northern glacier. So now what happens? You have to physically occupy the ridge. So these posts are marked, and you have to negotiate and climb with the help of ropes.
Okay.
So it is something like climbing Mount Everest. It is equal to that. With obviously one has to undergo a lot of training and acclimatization. So these posts, especially in Belafonla, in Bhim, and Banatop, as you already know, people know about it, what has happened there. These all have to be negotiated with the help of ropes. So once you are there on top, there's very little space, except for, say, Bhim Top, where I happen to be there. The rest of the peaks, they don't provide much maneuver for the troops to settle down there.
Okay.
Since it is the highest, what we call, point on the solitary ridge, you may find hard boulders there. And of course, some quantity of hard snow will also be there. So what do you do? You have to protect yourself from the enemy shelling, because the enemy from down below can observe you.
Okay.
So you have to go underground. Either you build sanghas. Sanghas are not possible there. Sanghas are basically hideouts built with the help of boulders and big stones. That is not possible there. So it is all hard ice. So you have to dig the ice and construct igloos.
So
there
you are practically staying inside the ice
Igloos.
structures.
In ice igloos. Otherwise, these are called, in normal circumstances, they are called bunkers. But there, you will term it as igloos, and igloos are basically inside, or you can see the hard blue ice. So now what happens, you also make your communication trenches, just because during the daytime the enemy is observing you, and the moment he sees you, he puts on effective artillery fire. You have got similarly some observation posts where day and night of course with the help of NVTs, you are scanning and observing the area, what about the enemy ingress, or what is his activity, what is he planning to do. So now the entire thing is confined to holding the passes and maintaining surveillance about the enemy's intention. This is how you are guarding the glacier.
I also would like to understand the concept of rope. How you all are tied,
Yeah, it is. See, glacier, the snow is so heavy there, so heavy, and uh, most of the time you will find the upper layer will be soft because it is fresh snow. As you go, say, about 1 foot or 2 feet, if you dig and go below, you will find it is hard, it is blue ice. Now, because of the summers and sometimes the sun coming out, you will find that some amount of shifting of the glaciers take place, the movement of the glaciers. Now, this invariably will result in crevasses being developed at certain points. Now, these crevasses are extremely dangerous, because what happens? A crevasse may develop. Again, snowfall will occur. So there's going to be a soft layer of snow just hiding or enveloping the crevasse.
Okay.
But the moment somebody puts his leg on that particular point, he's, because of the weight of a human being, is going to go down. The depth of the crevasses are not known. They may range from 10 feet to even 100 feet. Nobody knows. It depends on the configuration of the glacier at that point of time. So therefore, all movements in the Siachen Glacier takes place in a single file formation. Single file where one after the other soldiers are marching, and they are all tied up with ropes. This is basically be done. First person, in case he steps into a crevasse, the others will be able to rescue him or pull him out, because the rope is tied up with his body.
मतलब आपने कहीं भी कोई भी कदम रखा, you don't know whether it is next step is life or next step is death.
Exactly. And then as a SOP there, all the movement, whenever you're going to move from A place to B place in the Siachen Glacier, the movements have to start early in the morning. And by 12 o'clock in the afternoon, you have to reach your destination. It is so planned in that manner because the chances of after 12 o'clock in the afternoon. So that is why all movements are confined from 6 o'clock in the morning till about 12 o'clock in the afternoon.
I really salute all of you. Really salute. I come from this fraternity and I'm just so proud of all of you. अभी कनिल ठाकुर ये तो हमने बात करी that what is our charter of duty, हम किस तरीके से borders की रक्षा करते हैं, हम कैसे इतने जोश में हैं और हम difficult से difficult life को वहां पर बर्दाश्त करने के लिए तैयार हैं. But at the same time, it comes to my mind that Indian Army is spread over all across this huge nation. और सियाचिन का जो tenure है वो on rotation है. One unit is coming, relieving the previous one. And these regiments are coming from all parts of the country. कोई असम से directly सियाचिन पहुंच रही है, कोई south से आ रही है, कोई शायद जैसलमेर से आ रही है. And life at glacier is totally different. Your body has to be acclimatized. And on top of that, जिस तरीके का आपने explain किया कि रहना इतना मुश्किल है, so it cannot happen without mental preparation, physical training. So how are the new units trained to withstand this kind of, or एक और चीज that how much is the glacier tenure? So these two things.
That's a very pertinent question you have asked. Firstly, let me tell you that soldiers, be it serving in Jaisalmer or say in the south or in the northern areas of the country, they are supposed to be physically fit always and every time. But yes, Siachen is a different terrain. It is a specialized operation. It is a specialized kind of an environment where slightly more emphasis on training equipment is required to be given to the troops. So what happens that the infantry battalion, which is to be inducted into the glacier, they are not sent directly there immediately after they come from a peace tenure. Generally, these units are kept somewhere in the Ladakh area for a duration of say about 6 months to 1 year. Okay. Now, Ladakh area, that area also has very little oxygen. So what happens that the moment you are inducted into Ladakh, the process of acclimatization starts. And this is very, very important because the body has to get tuned up to the minimum level of oxygen. It takes time. You may be physically very fit. You cannot fight the medical issues there. So the body has to acclimatize to the less quantity of oxygen that is now going inside your lungs. So keeping the troops there for a tenure of 6 months to say about 1 year ensures that the bulk of the unit, they get fully acclimatized to the high altitude warfare. Now, second aspect is of the specialized operation, the specialized training. Unfortunately, during our time, there was nothing called specialized training. There was nothing called specialized equipment during the 80s or say early 90s.
Oh my
the infantry battalions which were inducted that hardly 30% were provided with special equipment. We had all gone with normal ECC clothing. There was no specialized training except for a week's capsule at the base camp to understand the equipment and little bit of icecraft. Now what has happened, institutional training has been organized. So all these units, they are trained for a period of 1 to 3 months by the high altitude warfare school of the Indian Army. So here you are given exposure to the terrain, understanding what the terrain is, what is the what are the challenges, what all can happen there, how do you walk on the glacier, what are the contingencies that may arise there, how do you negotiate crevasses, how do you negotiate an ice wall, what will you do if there's an avalanche. So all these things in nitty-gritties, they are given, they are told, explained to the troops. Then comes the specialized equipment. Today, 100% of the troops, the battalions which are inducted, are provided with specialized snow clothing, which has been procured from Europe.
Hmm.
They are very expensive, and that is the lifeline. You can say that is what keeps the soldiers warm.
Yeah.
Then you have the weapons and the ammunition, because of the low temperature, you have to have special attention to look after the weapons, how to store the ammunitions. They should not get spoiled, and at a right time, aisa na ho jaye ki the gun doesn't fire or
Hmm.
the rifle doesn't fire. So
Hmm.
all these issues are told there. They are educated. Practical training is given. Snowcraft is what they call exercises given them in detail, and this is how the training is being done for the talents which are being inducted.
But it is all a very, what do you say? You cannot even imagine before you go there as to what kind of, uh, how much is that temperature when it gets down to -50. I remember when I was posted to Leh, जो हमारे 3 टन्स होते थे शक्तिमान, उस समय तो स्टालियन आए नहीं थे, पर शक्तिमान के नीचे वो थोड़ी थोड़ी हल्की हल्की आग जला के रखी जाती थी कि उसका जो फ्यूल है वो जम नहीं जाना चाहिए.
Exactly,
So
exactly.
ऐसे ही हर चीज के ऊपर इतना ध्यान. And there was a video once circulating which made lot of which went viral, जिसमें ग्लेशियर में जवान जो है वो आपको एक रियल जूस का पैकेट खोल के दिखा रहे हैं कि वो ईंट जैसा हो गया है. अंडे हैं, दे आर लाइक रॉक्स. Apples are like rocks, and you cannot eat them in the form they are supposed to be eaten. They have to first
Yeah,
be dipped in
exactly.
hot water. Haji?
Exactly. There is no water glacier. So whatever you want to drink water or whatever water is required for cooking, the snow has to be taken in a container and it has to be melted. And that also takes a very long time. Now, since you raised this issue of rations and the eating issues there, the government of India has provided the best of the rations out there. Now, it is not dal, roti, chawal. It is not like that because it cannot be cooked. So what DRDO has done a good job there. They have devised some special rations, which is cooked and or it is all in a packet. All the troops have to do, they have to just put it in a container, take some ice and boil it. So
Okay.
more time, the food is ready. So everything is packed there. However, the troops, what I have seen, and it is across the board, all, say infantry regiments, people do not eat there. That the diet and the hunger goes down considerably. Considerably it goes down. People don't want to eat. But then you have to eat to survive. So the input more is on sugar. That is why the army is providing a lot of eatables where the sugar content will be more. And say the petrol is going, so there'll be a lot of chocolates available, a lot of biscuits will be available. So these are things which maintain that energy level, and also it helps in maintaining the body temperature. So this is the type of
Since you are not feeling hungry, but it is required that your energy is at the topmost level.
correct.
Yeah.
Because you have to survive right there.
Exactly. I was just wondering, Colonel Thakur, that everyone is continuously wearing those oxygen masks. And that is, as per a research, that can cause so many problems. Hearing problem, eyesight, even memory loss is there at that altitude, speech problem, sleep deprivation, as you said, loss of appetite totally. So these are the things which you all must be facing on a day-to-day basis. And as they say that human body is not designed to survive at a height more than 15,000 feet.
Exactly.
So that's why the glacier tenure is also very limited.
The glacier tenure officially it is for 6 months. 6 months for a battalion.
Okay.
Now, what happens that this schedule is very difficult to follow because of many reasons. The induction and de-induction gets delayed because of weather conditions, or the inducting unit suddenly will find that many of their troops or the officers have got evacuated in the initial stages itself.
Okay.
So these are certain imponderables and certain hazards which do happen. That is why what practically we have seen that the turnover generally extends up to 8 months.
Oh.
Now, within the battalion, since all posts are not alike, the degree of difficulty of posts on the Saltoro Ridge is very, very, very difficult. Vis-a-vis other posts which are down there.
Okay.
So the unit, the commanding officer, then has to, rotate the boys in such a manner that somebody say is on the Saltoro Ridge for 1 month or 2 months. Then he is rotated, he is given a rest, he is brought down, somebody else will go. So you have to play the game of chess now. Otherwise, official tenure is for 6 months.
Game of chess, that is a correct word, because the kind of toll that it takes on human body, we keep hearing, and people do not even understand what is acute mountain sickness, what is high altitude pulmonary edema, what is cerebral edema. These are the emergencies that if immediate evacuation is not done, we will lose that life. So can you please share with us any kind of medical emergency that you must have seen, and how that first hand account?
Okay, now as far as the medical issues are concerned, the biggest issue is of high altitude pulmonary edema. That is why all soldiers getting inducted have to undergo a very, very strict medical initially at the base camp. High altitude pulmonary edema is basically a tendency where the oxygen level inside the body comes down drastically. And what happens as a consequence of this, that water starts accumulating in the lungs. Now, if this develops, the individual within 24 hours has to lose height. Lose height in the sense that wherever he is positioned, he has to be brought down within 24 hours. If it doesn't happen, he may not survive next 24 hours. So the maximum casualties which we are facing is because of HAPO. During our time, there were no concept of any oxygen cylinders there in the glacier. I am told that today at some places, which I am not very sure, that the army, the government has provided oxygen cylinders on a limited scale at some of the posts. Okay. So what happens if somebody, say, is sitting on the Saltoro Ridge, he develops HAPO, and if the weather is not conducive, because all evacuations from such posts will be by way of choppers. If the chopper cannot come, this poor man will be struggling for his life for next 24 hours. If it still doesn't come, then the end is there. And then the second issue which you said about the medical problem is the cold injuries. Yeah. The cold injuries do take place. The percentage is also very high, despite the best of the equipment. These happen because of prolonged exposure, because of certain circumstances. So even for cold injuries, the only way out is to remove or to evacuate that person immediately to the base camp. That is the
fingers are crossed that the weather permits chopper to land.
Yeah.
It is said that 6.8 crore rupees per day is spent to keep the deployment functional at Siachen Glacier. Why? Because Siachen Glacier is tactically and strategically important to us. But the human cost is it cannot be form of a statistic or a data, but it is said that 1,020 lives, more than that, of our brave soldiers have been lost in this glacier from 1984 till date.
Exactly. In fact, God is great and God is kind that today, especially past about 10-15 years, the casualty rates have come down drastically. It has come down drastically. And this is primarily because of two reasons. Firstly, After say 2000, or in fact slightly before the Kargil war, the hostilities between the two armies have come down drastically. In fact, what I feel, the Pakis have also given up that they will not be able to dislodge the Indian army from the Salt River Ridge now. So that has made an effect to get down the overall casualties of the army. So this is one of the prime factors, and second is with the passage of time and the country also becoming more prosperous, more money we want for the cause of the armed forces. We have started getting state-of-the-art equipment and the equipment. Plus, more aviation efforts have come into place there, which ensures that the casualties are promptly and quickly evacuated from these areas.
I am sure, like you are saying, that when you went for glacier tenure, you were wearing the ECC clothing, and there was no snow clothing. Or I'm a logistics officer, so I can understand when we were equipping the glacier troops. It is so good that we are speaking, Colonel Thakur. So good we are speaking.
My unit, I distinctly remember my unit, only 40% soldiers were given the specialized equipment. Rest 60% had to manage with the ECC and without oxygen cylinders.
Without oxygen cylinder. Tell me any experience. When we were speaking before, I have read also your story, and that gave me a spine-chilling moment. I would not waste any more time making a background of the question, but I will straightway launch into requesting you to share your experience and your story of glacier.
So, as I mentioned to you, I passed out from IMA, and my first posting was in the Siachen Glacier when the unit was being inducted there. Now, you would recall that in 1987, in the summers of 1987, hostilities were going on between the two armies, and we had captured Vanatop. In fact, it was called Caid. Caid was the name given by the Pakis. Subsequently, we renamed it Vanatop. Now, this was done by 8 jetline, and their tenure got extended up to 8 months because of the relief problem. So we relieved 8 jetline at a time when the glacier was very hot because of hostilities. So in these circumstances, the unit was inducted to relieve 8 jetline. Now, since I was a youngster full of energy, like all youngsters, I was sending
and a Gurkha.
Yeah. Sending the advance party, and I was quickly told to take 10 odd boys and climb the Bhim. Like I said, Bhim was another second important pass in the northern glacier. So I was told to occupy Bhim post, and I was told to take 10 boys and gradually start the taking over there and relieve the officer and the troops, and subsequently the reinforcements will come, and finally we will take charge of the Bhim complex. So I reached there somewhere that was in beginning of September 1987. Now, in the meantime, the parties had different plans, and the moment our troops took over Bilafonla, that is the company command was with Chief of JR, they launched a massive operation against Ashok Post, which is located on the Salt River Village in Bilafonla. So this happened on what we called 23rd of September 1987. Communications were poor that time, and we were not allowed to also speak on the radio sets. The very next day, I was told to occupy Bhim Top. It's a massive feature, massive ice wall feature, which had to be climbed by ropes. So initially, when I saw, and it was a nightmare, I could never imagine the Indian Army mein ye bhi karna padega. Running with the boys, and it had to be done in the night, not in the after.
Otherwise, enemy would have noticed you and fired.
But the moment you reach on top, the enemy sees you, and then the artillery shells they start pointing. So I climbed that post. I was there on 23rd. In fact, about 16, 17 September, I was there. I was firmly located there. As a time on 23rd September, the enemy attacked my neighboring post, that is Villa Fongla Ashok post. Now, it was a very determined attack by the Pakis. Incidentally, the commander was none other than the famous army chief that time, Parvez Musharraf. He was the brigade commander. He was the man who had planned this operation. I had about 10 of my boys and about 15 boys of age at that time there. So when this thing happened, the first thing the Pakis did was to saturate Bhim area, Bhim top. So that in the evening at about 5 o'clock, when we were sitting inside the igloos, like I said, there's very little movement there. You can't do much movement around the glacier and the Salto Ridge. Huge barrage of artillery fire started coming on my coast. And it continued. It was so much that it was not even possible to take out their head and see out of the igloo what is happening. Spontaneously, but for 1 hour, they put a lot of artillery fire on my post. And then I got a message from the commanding officer that look, the enemy is going to assault. Now, where the assault is going to come, we do not know. It can be Ashok Ukat or it can be your post. So the orders are very clear. There will be no withdrawal. Last man, last round. So as the sun set, came down, the artillery fire receded, and everything shifted towards Ashok. So I will not, too much talk about what happened that particular juncture at Ashok. The attack could not proceed further that night because they sustained a lot of casualties. And attack, when I said attack on the glacier is by means of a rope. You have to pitch ropes if you want to climb the top. So when you are pitching a rope and climbing, it is how it will happen in a single file formation. So the maneuverability is very, very less. So in these difficult scenarios, hats off to those soldiers of Pakistani army who led this attack. They suffered heavy casualties. So they gave up. They could not make it in the first night, and rightly so, their commander told them to withdraw. Now that very night, I had 3-4 casualties of jet lag, basically splinter injuries. So then the next day I was told, and imagine if you are a casualty, then no chopper is going to come on Salto Ridge. If you have a splinter or a bullet or whatever it is frostbite, you have to rappel down with that same rope and come down. Yeah. And then only at the base camp, somebody is going to lift you from there. So I asked these boys, मैंने कहा भाई आप लोग क्या नीचे जा सकते हो? So they said कि हाँ sir हम चले जाएंगे. So then I arranged their evacuation from there, and these brave soldiers of Jackline, they came down and finally they were evacuated.
So chopper evacuation could not happen.
On to the Salto Regiment is not possible. Chopper cannot come up because the enemy will shoot it. It has to be behind the regiment, on side of the regiment. They got then next day the enemy was determined, and the same repetition took place. After about 5 o'clock, again a barrage of artillery fire, everything came onto me, that is my post, as well as the neighboring post, and it continued for 1 or 2 hours. And again, the same message I got from the commanding officer that the enemy is going to launch a massive attack. Where it will come, we do not know, but the orders are very clear. It is there will be no withdrawal at any cost. There will be last man, last round. And the same thing happened on 24th of September. The enemy changed their what we call the direction of the attack. They put the entire might onto Ashok this time. First night they tried to capture Ukat, which was not what we call successful. So here again they pumped in a lot of troops of the SSG, that is the special forces, and then whole night this continued. I was not in communication with the battalion headquarters. I was not in communication with what was happening there at Ashok and Ukat, but I knew that something is seriously is going around there. Artillery fire had stopped. Nothing was happening. I was only told to observe the area in front and immediately report if some activity was observed about the enemy. Now, the whole night I was not aware what happened. Subsequently, I came to know that the enemy had finally managed to come on top, 4 or 5 of them, and they were shot dead there. Of course, the unit as well as HJI had a lot of casualties there. We defended Ashok. That was the end of that operation there. And the enemy went back licking its wound. They lost more than 200 soldiers in this operation. And their bodies are still lying there. Most of the bodies, the slope towards the enemy from Ashok and Gukat, because the soldiers fell down and they were climbing with the help of ropes. They collapsed there, and there was no way to, for their bodies to get them. And within 24 hours, the bodies came, they got covered. So most of the bodies are still there in the fringes and down below the slopes of Ashok and Gukat. So this is what happened there. Then after that, the emphasis was all on casualty evacuation, because the casualties on our side were also very high. Then for various reasons, splinters, bullets, as well as frostbite because of prolonged exposure in the night. 3-4, in fact, we devoted about 3 to 4 days in getting our stocks replenished, the mission replenished, because situation was still very fluid. Unfortunately, the 4th day, that is what I could remember, was about 28th or 29th of September. Suddenly, the weather packed up in the entire length and breadth of Siachen Glacier.
Okay.
The blizzards, and that is a thing which everybody dreads in glacier. The blizzard came up. I will tell you that in Northern Glacier, if a blizzard takes place, it occurs. It is not that it is going to subside in 1 or 2 hours. It may continue till 30 days, unabated. यानी कि 30 दिन तक वही conditions रहेंगी. And when I say blizzards, the velocity of the wind there is more than 100. What happens now? Obviously, the first casualty is the temperature. So the temperature, say, if it is -20 or -25, it will zoom down to 50.
Exactly.
-50.
Oh my God.
Second casualty, there is the oxygen level. Now, in this circumstances, what happens because of the velocity, the wind velocity, and glacier is all about snow. So the fresh snow comes up in the atmosphere. It is blown up in the atmosphere.
तूफान, बर्फ का तूफान चल रहा है एकदम. Sir.
Visibility is 0. You will not come to know whether it is early in the morning or it is last light. It becomes hazy, it becomes dark, and environment is full of snow. What you are breathing is basically snow, because the entire thing has come up. If you are exposed, or if you happen to stand outside, when I say on the Saltoro Ridge, if you come out of your igloos, you will be blown away. You will be blown away with the wind, and where you go and fall, nobody can retrieve you after that. That is for sure. So after, say, about 28 September, 28 or 29 September, the blizzard started. Now, once the blizzard started, and we had no experience of this issue coming up there, the temperature obviously had gone down. The oxygen went down tremendously. Like what I said, during our times, there were no oxygen cylinders. 24 hours, first 24 hours, the lifeline is based on kerosene oil. So we had the jerry cans outside the igloos. So the JCO there, who was in charge of it, he told me, he said, "Saab, आप जल्दी से kerosene oil को अंदर कर दो आप, क्योंकि ये blizzard कब तक चलेगा किसी को नहीं पता है." And if you keep it outside for more than 24 hours, it will be covered by snow, and you will not be able to retrieve the container. So the first thing we did was quickly we got these kerosene oil. But the kerosene oil is the lifeline there. There's inside the igloo, there's a stove there. The stove burns, and you are just sitting there inside. The igloo is hardly 4 feet by 3 feet, something like that in space. So you are just warming up yourself with the heat of the stove. There was no sign of the blizzard coming down or the velocity of the wind coming down. The very third day, my buddy, in my igloo, there were 3 of us. My buddy was there, my radio operator was there, and self. The third day, this poor boy, and he was a very young recruit, just like me, like I had 2, 3 months of service. He probably also had 6 months of service. He was from Nepal. He developed hypo.
Hapo.
Now, this high altitude permanent pneumonia.
Hmm.
Those symptoms are very clear because the breathing becomes very difficult. Then you lose your consciousness, you have headache, you can't speak, your eyes get closed, and total restlessness. Now, there was nothing like it. I could do nothing. I informed the Dell headquarters, even they could not do anything. There was no question of what you talk of chopper. Even a patrol or a human being cannot walk on the glacier in a condition of research. But it is, the syndrome is all activities are frozen. Absolute. Where you are inside. That is all. Nothing much you can do. You can just wait and pray to God that the thing should get over at the earliest. But this boy, uh, we tried our level best, whatever we could do, rubbing his chest and even trying to give him some sort of oxygen with my own mouth. Nothing happened. And he passed away. He passed away approximately about, you can say, after about 2 days, he passed away. Now, rucksacks are there because we do carry our rucksacks. The igloo which I was staying, it was just 3 feet by 4 feet. Hardly 3 people could, sit there. And one person sleeping and 2 people sitting, something like that. So he passed away, and then I thought it was very improper to take out his body and keep it outside because within no time the body would have been flown with the wind velocity. And if the body had gone out, there was no way of retrieving the body. It would have gone anywhere and submerged in snow forever. So I thought, let the wizard come down. At least his body should go down and last rites. So I preferred keeping the body inside the tomb. This entire wizard or this syndrome, this lasted for about 9 days and 9 nights.
Oh my God.
And a time came that even I was feeling jittery and nervous, and कि क्या होगा? And that was primarily because of one reason, that our kerosene oil was getting exhausted.
Oh.
Because the stove had to be lit 24 hours. The temperature
And
had gone.
and this boy's last remains were there inside the igloo with you.
It was. I had zipped the body in the sleeping bag, and I was sitting, both of us were sitting next to it. So the temperature came down to -50. And then my radio operator told me, he said, "Sab, abhi to kerosene oil bahut kam reh gaya hai." That is the time I was getting jittery. कि अगर kerosene oil भी खत्म हो गया, तो probably then we will not survive. So then I said, okay, what we will do? We will do this procedure alternate hours. That is, for 1 hour we'll keep the stove on, and then we'll switch it off. So this is how we'll continue, and let us pray and hope for the best that the wizard comes down. It did not happen. So for 1 hour, the kerosene in the stove was on. After 1 hour, we switched it off. Now this 60 minutes for us to sustain at that juncture without stove was a nightmare. The hand and our feet had become so cold in that 30 minutes, in that 16 minutes, that was impossible to survive. So then we should just wait for that, 1 hour getting over. And immediately after that, we used to light the stove again. And then take out our boots and put the hand and the feet onto the fire so that you can have that.
Get warm.
Get warmed up. Now this continued, and I was just putting my fingers crossed कि अगर ये और ज़्यादा चल गया, with no kerosene oil, you cannot survive. And there was no question of replenishment coming because nobody can walk at that time in the glacier during the conditions of blizzard. Now, as luck would have it, 9th day, the wind velocity came down. It came down to such an extent where it was possible for a human being to come out of the igloo safely.
Achha.
And now I will tell you, there was no question of eating. We did not eat anything for those 9 days and 9 nights. We were only sipping tea, that is all. And to ease ourselves, it was not possible to go out of the it was not possible. It was just not possible. So that is the situation we remained. Ninth day, it came down, and then quickly we moved out, came out of the igloos. The first thing we did, we tried to extricate few, the kerosene oil containers which we could find there, and replenish our quota of the kerosene oil.
Okay.
And then I tell headquarters, whatever be it, after 2 days, when it finally subsides, please send the kerosene oil immediately to the coast. Otherwise, the troops will not survive. So this was that part of it. The blizzard got over. I removed that body out from the igloo. That is after the 9th night. And then obviously the CO was informed immediately when this boy had passed away. So 10th day, I got a message that what you do, you zip the body in the sleeping bag and roll it down from the top. Then we will send a patrol at the beam base. They'll collect the body and take it.
Acha, so it is just like this.
It's a massive cliff. It's a massive cliff. It's a massive ice cliff. So I came out of the igloo and I went towards the fringes of that cliff and rolled that body down. The body, and it's a concave kind of a slope. So after certain distance, you cannot see the person rolling down or the body rolling down or the stone rolling down. And then he was finally retrieved. The body was retrieved by the and it was sent to the base camp for cremation. Third, after about 3-4 days, then I got orders from the CO that you have to come back to the base camp because you have gone through a lot of trauma and we want to give you rest. So I was told to next day to come down, and I was told one officer from my unit will come and we will review. I then told the JSO there, "Sahab, I have to go down." So he said, "Ki sahab, hamare iske RT ke ek MCO hai. He has completed his tenure. In fact, he got stuck because of this operation and the blizzard. So wo bhi aapke saath jayenge." And along with that, another nursing assistant was there. He will also go down. He has also completed his tenure. And in fact, that tenure already got extended by 1.5 months. This is what the beginning I told you. Nothing is guaranteed. It is only on papers because all these imponderables and contingencies come up. Their tenure can get extended, which is not in your hand. So we three started the very next day when the third day when the blizzard got over. We came down. We started negotiating the rope and started. Now this Havaldar of the RT, he happened to be the first person holding the rope, and he started. I was the second one. The nursing assistant was third in the order of march.
So you were three in one row.
In one row, and there's a long rope which is permanently what we call erected there, and you have to negotiate and slowly with the help of crampons and ice axe, and of course you are carrying your own rucksack. You have to slow down slowly and slowly. I was taken up by surprise, and this factor I did not factor it into my planning because a massive blizzard had taken place. So we could not visualize that because of so much of snow, the rope would have been firmly embedded inside the snow. And this is exactly what happened. The moment we started coming down, we found that the rope was missing. It was covered by the snow. It was embedded in the snow. So he said, "Ki sahab, ye rassi jo hai andar dhas gayi hai." So I told him, "मैंने कहा कोई बात नहीं, मैंने कहा हाथ से झटका देके निकालना शुरू करो." There was no way out. So this boy was slightly nervous, which I could not understand or gauge that time. And in the process of shaking that rope, he lost control and he dropped the rope, that is the grip of the rope, and I found him rolling down like a stone. Cut, and he went down. It was
and he was getting disoriented.
He was shaken up. Actually, he was shaken up. He was very nervous.
Trauma.
So he could not control himself, and instead of clinging onto the rope, For what reasons, I do not know, he left the road. And he went down rolling like a stone. And after a certain distance, I could not see him. So what came into my mind, and in fact, anyone would have analyzed that, there was no chance of his surviving. Seeing the distance involved, seeing the what we call the gradient and the ice wall, and also crevasses down below, there were very, very minimal chances that this boy would have survived. Now, what happened? I became the first chair after that. The first, since he fell down, so I was second in that line of march. So I became the first individual. Now the onus was on me now to take out the rope and come down. So that is the time my nursing assistant, he was also shaken up. So he said, "साहब वापस चलते हैं, ये नहीं हो पाएगा, and ये रस्सी जो है नहीं निकल पाएगी, आप वापस चलते हैं." That is the time, a thought came to my mind. I said, no. I said, yeah, obviously this boy would have died. But again, if I do not come down now, after a few hours, his body will be submerged with snow, and it will not be possible to retrieve the body. So at least what can be done, if I come down now, yeah, I may take 1 hour, but at least I'll be able to identify or retrieve the body and then pass the information to Green Base, and they'll send a patrol and take away the body. So I said, again, it is morally not correct to leave the body like this. So I said, no, I come down. And since there was no communication with me at that time, neither with the beam top, the post one to soldiers, nor with the beam base, because I was not carrying a set at that time. So I said, no, I will come down. Then the onus and the initiative was with me. So what I did the same thing, and there was no other option. I started removing the rope, taking out the rope with my hand, shaking it vigorously. In this process, there was a direct contact with the snow as far as my hand was concerned. Obviously, I was putting on a double gloves. One is that special equipment glove, and the other was a normal leather private gloves which I was putting on. So this procedure continued for about 1 hour, and the progress was very slow. There was a time I suddenly realized that the weather was battling.
Oh.
There was some, thing which struck me that is it a correct decision I have taken? In case if the weather back up, then both of us will die. There is no way we can survive. But I was determined. I said, decision taken, now it has to be implemented. Now we have to come down at any cost. So I continued this, and I could gradually feel that my fingers are getting numb because the contact was direct. And the temperature at that time was generally about -30.
Minus?
30.
Minus 30.
In this process, after say about 1 hour or so, while I was trying to dig out the rope, my outer gloves fell down. And obviously, if they fell down, then there was no way to
retrieve it.
So I was left with only one leather gloves, which was of no use in Siachen. And there is a time I could feel that my fingers are getting numb. When I looked down, I could see the base, and the distance which was left to be negotiated was approximately about 30 to 40 meters more. And that was steep. Last stretch was a very steep ice wall. So we were just clinging, one right hand was clinging with the ice-6 and both the legs with the crampons. And we were just hanging onto the rope, onto the ice wall. So then what I did, I had no way out. I decided to use my teeth to take out the rope because my left hand was not working.
Oh my God. So you could not feel your hand only?
I could not, because there was no strength left. There was no strength left. It had become numb. And it was just, my left hand was just, maintaining that balance onto the ice wall. Right was firmly gripped with the ice-6 onto the ice wall. And of course, both the legs with the crampons. So I started taking out the rope with my teeth. That time, obviously, I was young, my teeth were strong.
I'm just trying to imagine You are there with ice axe and you are trying to use your teeth to take the rope out. My God.
Yeah. It was very difficult, and this process took me another 1 hour. And somehow I was very lucky that I was able to negotiate that balance 30
Yeah.
with the help of my teeth. And we finally came down. When I came down, to my pleasant surprise, I saw this artillery gunner sitting down with his head down. I just could not believe
He survived.
that this boy will be alive.
Oh my God.
People have seen a lot of this, and this miracle I've seen in my life.
This, the way he
So,
fell down, it was not
no
possible.
way, given the terrain, the circumstances, and the length of the fall, there was no way. And the best part of it, his entire body, hands, limbs were intact. Nothing happened to him. So he was sitting down. I went close to him. I said, "Utho, theek ho." Now this boy, and obviously granted to him, he was shaken up. He was totally shaken up. He had lost his senses. He got up and started crying violently. Then I consoled him. I hugged him. I said, "शांत रहो, तुम बच गए हो, ठीक हो करके." And then he became quiet. I asked him also, मैंने कहा हाथ पांव टूटे तो नहीं है? कहता नहीं साहब, सब ठीक है. So this was a miracle in front of my eyes. But when I finally I came down, I opened my gloves. The blisters had set.
Blisters.
The pain, blisters, huge blisters. My entire left hand, all my fingers. And right were slightly better, but again children had certain on the right fingers also, right hand fingers also. Then finally we able to reach the base camp there, the Bhim base camp. Time was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So when I reached there, the pain developed so much, and I'm telling you that this pain cannot be tolerated of the first bite. The JSO took me to the tent, and immediately I told him, मैंने कहा साहब आप सब चले जाओ यहाँ से, बाहर हो जाओ. So he saw my hand and he was also shaken up. He was surprised कि ये साहब क्या हो गया आते आते. And I started crying. I cried for 1 hour. I literally cried, tears coming out, and these poor boys were there. They were trying to console me. I could not control my tears. The pain was so much. After about 1 hour, finally, I was able to control my emotions. The pain slightly came down. So the gesture criticized कि साहब मेरी साहब से बात हुई है, सिविल साहब से, उन्होंने कहा है कि सिविल चॉपर नहीं आ सकता है, बिकॉज विजिबिलिटी नहीं है, बिल्कुल नहीं है. एंड कल जो है साहब को तैयार करना, you will try your best to send the chopper. So next day at about 11 o'clock, when the weather was not clear. Let me tell you, the weather was still not clear next day, and I was in that same condition, lying in that Arctic tent. The weather was not clear. However, the ROP officers, they have done a commendable job. They came to know officers in trouble. So I don't even know the name of this pilot. He volunteered. He took off from the base camp and came there. I was told, the boys were told that जैसे ही चॉपर आएगा लैंड नहीं करेगा, आप सांप को उठा के पीछे जल्दी से वो चीता के अंदर डाल देना. So the chopper came and I was just thrown inside there along with the nursing assistant. We were here also assistant first by both of us, and we were then evacuated and brought to base camp. So this is how, and then further evacuation to Chandigarh. Now, when I came to the command hospital Chandigarh, the specialist there, he told me, he saw my hand, he saw me, he saw my age. My fingers, 3 fingers, in fact, till knuckles, nothing was left. It had all melted. जैसे जलने में होता है, burning में होता है, burn. There was very thin bone left. Rest everything had burned and gangrene had set in.
Oh my God.
So now, in such an eventuality, when it becomes gangrene, that affected portion has to be amputated. Because it is like cancer and will keep spreading. So there's no other way. You have to remove that from the body. So I was told by the surgical specialist, he said, friend, today there is no cure, no medicine for this. Let me tell you very frankly. And we had not seen so many cases. It's courtesy Siachen Glacier now over the past 1 or 2 years that now we have started receiving these casualties, these type of cold injuries. Otherwise, we also had never seen so many cold injuries as far as the patients were concerned. So he told me, he said, nothing much can be done. But since your age is, you're very young, just 23 years, so we will wait and watch and give you the benefit for about 10 to 15 days. Now, in case the gangrene does not subside, you have to go to Pune for amputation. So he said, there's no way out, the amputation will take place. So, but however, considering your age, we will wait for 10, 15 days. So what do you want to do? That was a question he asked me. I told him, sir, when I was being airlifted from base camp, from Siachen base camp, the head Lama, who happens to be contract man for giving quotas to Indian Army, he came to me and he told me, he said, साहब आप जो है ना घबराना मत करो, हमारे यहाँ बहुत केसेस होते हैं ऐसे, तो आप क्या करना, शलगम और मूली, शलगम या मूली, उसको काट के गर्म पानी करके आप अपने अंगुलियों को उसमें जितना टाइम तक डाल सकते हो, डू इट, और आप ठीक हो जाओ. So I told the surgical specialist this thing. He said, fine, there's no problem. We will arrange.
अनिल झाड़ू नहीं लगा रहा.
So so the hospital gave me all these facilities, and my hand initially it was very difficult for me to submerge the hand inside the hot water. But I did it very religiously, and after 24 hours, nearly about 18 to 20 hours, my hand was inside that container. 10th day, the medical attendant who was assigned to me, he saw my hand in the morning. He said, "Sir, आप जल्दी तैयार हो, मैं आपको अभी ले आता हूँ डॉक्टर साहब के पास में, because आपके यहाँ red lines आ गई हैं हाथ में, concentric red lines have developed. So get ready immediately. We will go to the surgical specialist." So I went there. The surgical specialist examined my fingers very minutely, and he saw me. He said, "And this is a miraculous recovery." He said, "I have not seen in my medical."
And what is the meaning of those red lines?
Red lines implies that the cells are no longer dead. I mean, say the gangrene is not progressing further. Now, what has happened? The life has come into the body cells.
Okay, so it's regressing now. Yes.
Yeah, so that is why it is becoming red.
Oh.
Otherwise, उसमें क्या होता है कि वो black हो जाता है.
Show your hand. Show your hand, Colonel Thakur.
My one index finger is slightly टेढ़ा now.
Okay. और थोड़ा सा ऊंचा करिएगा, नीचे दिख नहीं रहा है. Okay. अच्छा. But this nail, अच्छा ये आपने election में vote दिया है.
Now nails, everything came out. Everything was new. Till the knuckles, there was hardly any bones left. There was no bone. It all melted. Basically, frostbite is like a burning sensation. You know, it is the symptoms are same for burning. So they had all melted.
Oh God.
So there is a time the red concentric cells started developing towards the base.
And it got all right all by itself.
That's what I'm trying to say, because when he told me कि आप क्या करना चाहते हो, तो मैंने कहा कि मुझे लामा ने ये बताया था, ये करना आप, because the doctors had said that there's no treatment for this.
Sometimes you don't have answer for so many things.
So now finally I got, and he told me that it will take about 2 to 3 years for the sensation to develop.
Okay.
Finally, about 2 to 3 years. It is a very long and a tedious process. The sensation will come into the fingers not before 2 years. In my case, after 1 year, my fingers became 70 to 80% okay. And then the time I got upgraded. Now these cases are special cases because AMC is also part of the Indian Medical Association. So whenever the success, what the stories come in, as far as the medical science is concerned, they share this with the Indian Medical Association.
Okay.
So patients are not aware of it. They do it within their SOPs and all. So obviously my whatever has happened to me and what I underwent, and this case file must have gone to the Indian Medical Association, and they also share this with the World Medical Association. So After about 1.5 years, my fingers became okay. I got upgraded and I did my Ghatak course also, despite my fingers not
Oh
being
my God.
totally all right. And then the life became normal routine. In the year 2001, after Kargil War, my regimental medical officer, and the unit was in Jamnagar, he suddenly he spoke to me in the night. He said, "Please tell me where you were there with your battalion when the battalion was in Glacier." मैंने कहा, "Yeah." मैंने कहा, "आपकी क्या कोई इंजरी हुई थी?" मैंने कहा, "Yes, I was a case of first by third degree." But this gentleman was doing research in cold injuries. So
Acha.
he was looking for a lot of data as we do in research. So probably that time he went through a website where it was written, and he told me, he said there's a website where it is written that there are only 20 people in the world who recovered from first bite, third degree for unknown reasons. So he said, and your name is second, it is written Second Lieutenant Manoj Thakur, Indian Army, and rest are all mountaineers.
Oh
So
my
then
God.
I told him, friend, you are doing research in cold injuries. Let me tell you, it is not because of unknown reason. And the reason is very simple. It is shalgam and muli.
ये गाजर मूली का खेल है. Oh my God, Colonel Thakur, this is. मैं आपसे एक चीज तो ये पूछना चाहूंगी कि फिर आपको ऐसा as a soldier, when we hear the stories that especially after Operation Vijay, that how Pakistan just never bothered or never came forward to collect their fallen soldiers, and here you were inside that igloo with the last remains of your body for almost 9 days, and then you were willing to give, you know give it your all when you were coming down from that rope and trying to follow up that RT gunner who had lost the control and was lying down somewhere there. These are the things that are ingrained in Indian Army.
Teachings and the values, yeah, which the army gives.
I get very overwhelmed when I hear stories like these, that uh, the stark contrasts are so much to be seen. And you were what, 23 years old?
Yeah, that was my first question.
23 years old.
23 years old. After attachment of 13 days with the center, then infantry officers moved directly to the unit.
क्या उम्र होती है? 23 साल कुछ भी नहीं होती है. This is
a full-fledged war. Just
yes.
1 month of service.
Oh my God. So, Colonel Thakur, we will wrap up the show, but I have to ask you one thing. Do you think that mind conquers all? It
Very
is
much.
mindset that matters.
Very much. See, the foundation of a soldier, especially an officer, is based on robust mindset. You have to be mentally strong to be able to carry out any difficult task, be as a soldier or even outside. Now we keep talking of, robust mindset, be mentally strong. We keep hearing these lectures being given by everybody. But then somebody should ask the counter question. But how do you be mentally strong? How will you become mentally strong? The answer is very simple. Mental strength comes from certain issues which I just said. Firstly, you have to hone your skills. You should identify your merits, your skills, and hone them up. That will give you tremendous confidence. If your skills are sharpened, automatically you will become confident. Next is a positive mindset. The mindset has to be positive. You should have an attitude of thinking always positive in life. If you are too much critical in life, the aspect of mental strength will be deficient. Let me tell you very frankly about this. So the second point which I said, that a positive mindset. And the third is preparation. That is doing your homework. Now, if certain tasks has to be done, your training, your evaluation, that has to be complete. If you are fully trained, if you have got knowledge, if you have got information, if you are positive in mind, and if you have confidence in your skills are sharpened, you will definitely have a robust mindset. Now, in my case, when I was there in Kawan Hospital, Chandigarh for almost about 20 plus days, believe me, never this issue came to my mind that I am going to lose my hand. I do not know what happened at that time. Probably I was young, I was full of energy and a positive mindset. It never came to my mind that my hands would be amputated. The medical fraternity, they were watching me very, very closely. The MNS, the nursing assistant, the doctors. And when I was being finally discharged, they did it. They said, friend, it is your mindset. It is your positive mindset, I think so, which has helped you in overcoming this disaster. They did it. They said for any ailment, doctors can do only 50%. The rest 50% is with the patient. He has to be mentally strong. He has to do everything to come out of the agony. Without doctors, the medical fraternity can just provide 50%.
I think this conversation has been truly with a Yoddha, and you justify the Shaurya Tales series Yoddha. You have conquered the mind. Thank you so much, Colonel Thakur. It has been an honor to record this conversation with you. And to all the audience, to everyone who's there and listening to this today, there is a stone memorial at the base camp of Siachen Glacier. And the words written there are so poignant. They totally embody the spirit of what Colonel Thakur has just spoken. It embodies the jazba and the josh and the true grit and determination of Indian Army. And the words are, quartered in snow, silent remain. When the bugle calls, they shall rise and march again. Thank you so much. Jai Hind, Colonel Thakur. Jai Hind, everyone. Thank you.